Welcome to Widow Too Soon. This is Michelle Bader. I am sitting here with my friend and co-host Mark Massaro. How you doing, Mark?
I am doing fantastic. Actually, life is good.
Yes.
God has restored a lot of joy into my heart and my soul. And that is such a welcomed feeling. I could definitely dive into that a lot more, but how are you doing?
I am good. Yes. Joel is visiting and we just went to the beach. Now, when you think beach, it's not like, you're used to like California beach or like we just went to Florida beach. It's cold. It was so cold, like ice cold. So we were like out for a little bit and then I'd be like, okay, I'm freezing, get in the car. Oh, and you can drive your car on the beach. So fun.
Oh,
And
nice.
I let Hayden drive on the beach and they were gone like 20 minutes, all the kids. And I was like, what did I let him do? And they're like, what do they call it? Cookie donuts?
Donuts.
Yeah.
Cookies.
I don't know. One of those
Oh,
words.
that's awesome.
He went,
Yeah, not cookies.
okay, I don't know. It's like one of those sweet foods. Right?
It's a guy thing, I guess.
Okay, I don't know about that. I did do one. I did do one. Yes, and it was like so scary. I didn't love it. So I let him do that. What else? Let's see. We fed deer. There were like deer everywhere. We didn't know this. So my kids are all like feeding them veggie straws because that's what we had with us. And then a lady pulls up and is like, it's a $500 fine if someone catches you. We're like, oh no.
Wow.
So, yeah, crazy. Didn't know that. We looked it up. It's apparently a rule in the whole US. So if anybody out there sees a deer, don't feed them. Okay.
Oh, I did not know that.
I know, learn something new. So we had a great time at the beach and then crazy. Okay, it's April 11th. We had a 75-degree day the other day. Today we woke up to snow, which was crazy, 6 inches. And the kids had another day off instead of going back to school. So it's been really fun. Okay, something I don't think I've told you about, this kind of scary happened. So I've been having like chest pains and I got like really freaked out like for the last couple of weeks, just a little bit. I went to the doctor and got an EKG. I had a chest x-ray done, but the good news is it's not a heart issue. Like what it did was it brought up all this grief and all of this like anxiety we've talked about. Like I never had anxiety until after Luke passed away. You know how it brings up the anxiety, like what if something happens to me? So I was like super freaked out, but my EKG came back totally normal, chest x-ray totally normal. So I think it's just something, the chest wall lining is like a sore muscle. So it's kind of like on my ribs. It's not exactly heart.
Well, do you go to the chiropractor ever?
No.
Okay, so I've actually had that, and I actually am currently working on having that. I get my chest like really hurts.
Yeah,
my ribs hurt.
Yes.
I have my ribs are out, like they say I have a rib out of place, but when this chiropractor explained it to me, he said your torso is like twisted.
Oh.
So it forces your like rib cage to like and it just kind of throws it causes inflammation. I'm sure I'm explaining this wrong. If there's any doctors listening, don't make fun of me, but that's the basic gist of it. And every time I get adjusted, there's one particular adjustment he does where he crosses my arms and he gets his hand under my back and then just kind of presses down.
Oh.
And it's like I feel like I can breathe for like the first time. And so that might be what it is. If you go to chiropractors can really work magic. It's a little scary if you've never been to one.
Yeah, I have have a go, but it's not a usual thing. But it's called like chondrocytitis. I don't know. It has a name where he just explained it because when the doctor he's like, does it hurt here? Does it hurt here? So he's like, the fact that it hurts like it's not your heart and it's like down below in my ribs. But just like it was so scary when I literally like was like, okay, God, like maybe I have a heart issue. Like I got to be okay with this. And it was more like just trusting God through this process of like, what if I have a heart issue? What's going to happen? And like this, it brought up all kinds of like, what if there's something wrong with me? And I've still been going through it. Like, okay, what if that's not really what it is? What if it's like a tumor? I'm like, okay, we did an x-ray. I have to go back to the facts. Like, my heart is good. It's really good. And like, and the fact that I was like, I run all the time. It doesn't affect it, so that was weird, like walking through that. And I'm still, feeling the pain and like, am I really okay? So that was interesting. Like definitely.
Well, and it's different now too, because like all our kids have left.
Right. Exactly.
And so I've thought of that so many times where like when I feel like, and actually when I was having those pains I was just talking about, I started thinking the same thing, that maybe I'm like, gonna have a heart attack or something. And it's like, I don't know, it's just interesting that when Lacey was alive, I just had this very much a different feeling about
Yes,
dying. And
exactly.
that I was like, well, they'll still have her, you know what I mean? It like,
Mhm.
it wasn't, but now it's kind of like this, oh my gosh, like who would raise my kids, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's pretty natural. I think a lot of people out there would understand
Yeah. So that
exactly your
was
fears.
something, but I'm feeling much better about it and try to just stay in a place of peace. Like when I start thinking that and just like it's going to be okay. And then just remembering, even if there was something seriously wrong, like God's got me, He's got my
Mm-hmm.
kids, like just even if it was worst case scenario, and just, just thinking
Yeah,
about,
your salvation is secure.
exactly. And it kind of brings me back to our guest, Kate, was it Kate who had,
Playdeck, I think.
yes, who had
Uh-huh.
cancer. Wow, her
Yes.
husband had cancer, and just like how she
Yes.
went through all of that, and just like, wow, that would be so
I know.
scary.
I think about her all the time.
I
I think
know,
about that
just
situation all the
such a
time.
hard thing. And anyways, enough about me. So tell me, like, what's going on with you?
So yeah, just I can't really perfectly explain it, but I just have so much joy in my soul right now.
So glad.
Um, it is, I mean, there's many reasons for that, but it's just such a beautiful feeling. And I've learned again recently to trust God with my
Mhm.
future.
Right.
It's so tempting sometimes to uh try to jump in and help him.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and
Yes,
like,
I do.
and rather than just trust that he has your best interest in mind. And I've just had some things shown to me lately, where like I know I can trust him with my future.
Yeah.
Um, so that's been a beautiful joy restored to my soul. Um, we tried out this new little church.
Oh
We were going to Calvary
yeah,
Knoxville,
a big one.
and yeah, and it was, it is a great church, but it's huge.
Yeah.
And we're just moved. I want to connect with people, and so we went to this little tiny church comparatively. And you've seen Forrest Gump, right?
Yes.
So when he's like singing in the choir.
I think so.
I don't know if you could like. So,
A long
anyways,
time ago.
I just totally pictured that that's how this church was. It just felt like some like down south
Nice.
church, and I just absolutely loved it. It was so I went with my cousins, and it was super obvious that we were the new people
Yeah.
because everybody already probably knows everybody.
Yeah.
So we had so many people come up and introduce themselves, and were very
That's
friendly. And
awesome.
I just got a really good feeling. They had a really good message on not just talking the talk, basically, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, like making
Yeah.
sure that you're serving people, and you're actually like going out and loving on people, and using your gifts to benefit
Yeah.
others. And I just loved it. It was a really good message. And then they invited us after to stay for just happened to be the day of the newcomers lunch.
Nice.
It was sitting on a plot of land where there's a cemetery. So that was kind of an interesting, talking to my kids about that afterwards was kind
Wait,
of
like it's an
interesting.
old church that has a cemetery behind it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like
Okay.
on the same land. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if
I've
it
seen a lot
belongs
of
to the church,
old
but
churches like that. Yeah.
yeah. And so, you know, it's not something I would have wanted anybody else to hear, but just to me and everything my kids and I have been through, it was just funny. But Luke's like, "Whoa, look at all the dead people!" I'm like,
Sounds like
yeah.
it.
I'm like looking around. I'm like, don't say it like that. He's like, it's
It's
just
so
there's like a
cute.
lot of dead people here. I'm like, yeah, they're all in heaven. And I mean, they're too young to explain it any other way.
Yeah.
But so anyways, yeah, it's just been my life has just felt very full lately, and it's
That's good.
just a really tremendous feeling. So
Awesome.
I'm going to segue a little bit into today's topic, which is dating a widow. So we have a very special guest with us today.
Yes,
I
we do.
know you all have heard about him, the infamous, the one, the only Joel is with us. How you doing, Joel?
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. It's super cool. We've been looking forward to doing this for a while. So Michelle and Joel are actually sitting next to each other. So just know
are.
that, Joel can't be totally honest right
Yes, he
now.
can.
He might catch an elbow to the ribs or something if he says something wrong. I'm just teasing. So I guess we'll start off with Joel. If you could, just kind of tell us a little bit from your perspective what it's like dating a widow. I know that's pretty vague and broad,
Yeah.
but just, if you could touch on it at all and just in ways that it's been, hard. Because I'll just say real quick and then I'll give it to you that I have heard a lot about your ability to stand next to Michelle in her grief. And I just want to commend you on that like I don't know you, but from what I do know, you're a really great man. And I just think it's awesome that a lot of the way she's told me a lot about how you handled her grief. And I just think it's super cool that you have the ability to do that. Because I know a lot of us, a lot of people listening and myself included have been afraid of dating somebody who wasn't a widow because they wouldn't understand or wouldn't have the right empathy that we need.
Yeah, totally.
So that's my preface to kind of, ask you about how it's been for you.
Yeah. Well, it has been a pleasure to date Michelle, because the person who you're dating, that's that needs to match with who you are, and you guys have to have a good chemistry between each other. And so I have that with Michelle, and I really enjoy her very much. But as far as her background with being a widow, that does bring some different challenges that you have to be aware of as you kind of walk into a relationship with any widow. I would assume,
Sure,
where
yeah.
you have to kind of be sensitive to the story that she comes from, or that a widow comes from, and know that that story isn't over. It's a continuation, and you're just like Michelle says a lot, you're just chapter 2. And so so there has to be a good you have to be aware of that and be comfortable with that as you start that relationship. That'll be my best and biggest advice to folks that don't have that background and are getting into a relationship with a widow.
I like that. That's really cool. And you are a believer, right?
Yes.
I don't want to make any assumptions. Okay. And so are there ways that your faith has also helped you? I don't want to say deal with this. Sorry, Michelle, but just for
Deal
lack of a better, like, how do you deal with this chick? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, I think, being able, having the same faith background as Michelle is really important, and I would say in general, dating somebody that has the same background as you is critical, because right there's so much that hangs in that balance as far as beliefs and what you guys are aspiring to, what your true purpose is in life, and so different things like that. So so there's that aspect, but then the aspect of truly being able to trust in God as you sometimes don't understand what your the widow in your life is going through. Sometimes that's really challenging. And so you can just say, Lord, she is your daughter first before she's the girl that I'm dating. So I can trust her to him and ask for help as I give her space to grieve, or notice when things all of a sudden change a little bit and realize that maybe she got triggered somehow with some grief. And so there has to be a lot of just understanding and good communication and patience, and but there's also a lot of joy too. So
I love that. That's a great answer. And I'll just preface this right now and just say, sorry, ladies, he's taken. Because I know
He's
there's
taken.
I know
Back
there's
on
a
off.
lot of women that are like, oh my gosh, do you have a brother? And that's
He's
super
got
cool.
a few, but they're married. So
It's just such a humble and beautiful perspective. And it's very selfless. And I like that. It's really cool. And it's because it's obviously got its challenges, of course. And so coming into it with like a humble heart like that is just, it's just got to be key. And I totally get what you're saying. I mean, with the background as far as that goes, because that's, I mean, I know we all, I'm not assuming everybody's a believer, but we know the vast amount of our audience are believers. So most of you will be able to relate that when you meet another Christian, there's just an automatic bond. There's an automatic connection that is just already existent. And so, you can build upon that. That's a great thing. And so, Michelle, we know we've talked a little bit in our previous dating episode, but that was several months ago now. Yeah. So what have you learned? And like, what things do you think that you're doing well or not doing well? Or you know what I mean? Like, I guess what would you say would be somebody's advice now that you have so much more experience in dating?
Okay. Where do I start?
Loaded question. I was just waiting for that one in the chamber.
Oh, I don't know. I think the biggest thing is communication. Absolutely. And for both of us, like it does happen once in a while, like when all of a sudden something triggers, I guess that's the word, triggers me to go into a grief moment. I usually don't have they're not long, but he's very sensitive, and especially if we're together, he can see a lot more than long distance. But to be like, hey, like, are you having a grief moment? Like, what's going on? And to be open, to the person that you're dating, to say, yeah, here's what's going on, and also to be able to be comfortable. Just random things. Like we were at the grocery store today and I was able to say, hey, this is totally random, but I just want to share it. Like Luke always had to use a grocery cart to help him walk. I mean, just random things. Like to be open that the person that you're dating is totally cool with you hearing anything at any time and not being jealous. Like that's
cool.
That's, one of the big things. But it's challenging when one of you is widowed and one of you is not. I've heard that from other people too. Just because we were talking about today about how everything with like my past marriage is so final, like it's death, like, we still have the emotions and everything, but, there's all kinds of like legal stuff you have to figure out, all of that when you're divorcing somebody. So it's just, like emotions there and just all the stuff that how different that is. And, just trying to navigate that. And I mean, I don't know, but as far as like advice to other widows dating somebody is just to be open, like don't hide your feelings, like don't stuff them down. You'll know right away if the person you're dating can handle you talking about them. I mean, that was before we were dating, we were just talking and, talk to him about like, how would you feel about that? Like, cause I'm always going to talk about Luke. I'm going to have pictures of him, and Joel actually was able to go with me to the cemetery last time he was here, which was awesome. And
that's really cool.
Yeah. And be part of that. And I wanted to bring him into that special place to be part of that. And just being completely like open about how you're feeling. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Don't stuff your grief down, just like we talk about all the time. But when you're dating someone, also don't stuff it down. And like, I'm really missing Luke right now. Like I've told him that before, but that doesn't mean I don't love you. Like, that whole thing we've talked about a million times, how you can love more than one person at a time, just like you love, you have a kid, you think you can't love one more, you love them, just the same. It's like how your heart expands. And we talk about like, it's a different love. Like for both of us, we've had past marriages. This is a different love. And it's unique and special and it's its own love, and so.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so are there still moments for you where you still experience any guilt or like nothing against you, Joel, this isn't directed towards you, but like does anything with Joel directly cause you grief? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'll go back to I've never felt guilt. I guess before Joel, like when I was just back in the dating world right in the beginning, I kind of did. I went through that a little bit. I never have had guilt with Joel, but if we're having some issues that we're trying to work through that are difficult, which definitely happens when there's a past and, he's been married, like just life, working through issues. Sometimes it's really hard I will have a grief moment, because if I was married to Luke, I wouldn't be going through this, if that makes sense. Like, but it
Yeah.
sounds negative. He understands. I've told him about it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's just sometimes.
Right. And it's part of, the fallen world that, we have to deal with some things that would not be our first choice.
Sure.
Michelle would have never wanted her husband to pass away. I would have never wanted my marriage to end. I did everything I could to try to fix that. And so it's just part of the fallen world so now when we come into a new relationship with these different backgrounds and baggage, and having lived, I was married for about 21 years or so, and
Almost
about
17.
17. So we had this whole back life or previous life, with different partners. And so when we start coming together, so now we're bringing all that in and trying to work through that. And there are definitely, areas and situations and even conversations that are a little bit hard to deal with. And so it's a process. I think you have to go slowly and with a lot of patience, with a lot of understanding, and be empathetic, for Michelle because of my background and vice versa, and be very patient with each other. I think that's really the key to being able to make something work, at this point in our lives, because it's definitely, it takes a lot more work, a lot more emotional intelligence and just emotional work to deal with the emotions that come through as you are starting this wonderful new life together.
Right. Yeah. It's not like you guys are starting, like our first relationships. It's like we were starting life together.
Yes.
Right.
Now you have a whole life, and
Yes.
it's almost like you're starting anew again. And I really like what you said, that none of us chose this.
Right.
And so I'd say something I'm gathering from this is that obviously you have to really be particular about finding somebody that's compatible with you. But that it, just like any relationship, it takes both people being willing to adapt to the other one and what they've been through. It's really interesting. This is kind of cool to just sit back and have you guys, explain it, because it's so neat to, it's like, I almost wish that there were like a panel of like 5 widows, because I know there's so many questions out there that people are hoping that I'll ask. So I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying. Yeah, well, I said y'all. Oh, quick sidebar. Totally unrelated to that. People don't call them shopping carts here.
Oh, yeah, buggies. That's what you said last time.
Oh, did I? Okay. Yes, you said shopping cart a few minutes ago, and I was
I did.
waiting to say that.
So something else I wanted to mention that Joel has said many times about like joining 2 families. It's like we come from different cultures. Our family cultures are different.
Our cultures in our house.
Yes. Yeah. And so he's noticing that more being here and being around my kids, and just like feeling kind of like he's in a foreign country. Like you guys have your own jokes, your own food, your own, all this stuff. And so trying to figure out how to bring the cultures together.
And how is it with obviously you guys would have 2 different parenting styles, even as similar as they might be. And so you both have children that are pretty much raised. So do you find any conflicts there in like the way that you would, maybe the way Joel, you would act in a certain situation towards your kids versus Michelle, or Michelle, kind of the same thing? Is there any like parenting things that you see that you kind of disagree with each other on?
Well, I think blending any family is always I think that's gonna be universal. The challenges of blending families. And that is a journey that we're starting to, undertake. Getting some help from the outside, with some counseling and there's a lot of good books out there that we are going to start reading. And so I think that's more of a universal. Anytime you blend families, you're going to run into those. You have to be super careful and super thoughtful. Do it very, in a very consistent manner that will honor each other and not be this, come in and just change each other's
right.
because nobody's going to like that. The
Right.
kids will not like it.
Yeah.
So,
And so you're gonna have to have a lot of patience. But I think going back to our backgrounds of me being divorced and Michelle being widowed, I think I think maybe some people don't realize that there's grief on my side as well.
Sure.
I lost a family, I lost a relationship. So anytime there's death, even to a relationship,
mhm.
it's hard. And so, even being around Michelle's kids, which they're great, but sometimes it brings grief because man, my kids aren't with me, or I
That
have
makes sense.
situations with my girls, or my boy isn't here, and so it's challenging for both sides. It's wonderful and challenging at the same time, but I think it's something that you just have to slowly talk through, work through, be mindful of, and just like Michelle said, just and this is probably an area that I struggle with, is be upfront about how you're feeling, and not hide those feelings, because if you hide anything, then it's just going to get worse later. And so
Yeah. And it's not, I wouldn't even necessarily categorize it, at least for myself, I'm not speaking for you, but like hiding makes it sound like you're doing something wrong. But a lot of times it's more of like a personality type thing. Like either you don't want to burden somebody with it, or you think you might just be able to get past it on your own. And so I would be curious to know if it's like you just need to learn to be better at communicating with her or something like that. Because like saying that you're hiding it makes it sound like you're doing something wrong. And I think it's more of like a personality trait, because I can relate to that. Where like in your shoes, it's just kind of like, I'll figure this out. I don't want to put this on her. She's already got enough or whatever. So anyways, I mean, I'm not speaking for you, but I'm just trying to, think how I would phrase it, I guess.
Yeah, no, that is a better way to phrase it. Yeah.
And going back to the question about parenting styles, well, he's always said he's not, at least to this point, not going to be a parent. Like he's trying to step in kind of more like a friend, because they're almost all grown up, and being more like a mentor role is kind of what we're looking at it, instead of like whenever he's here, he's like, you're in charge, you make all the decisions, you're their parents. And I don't think it would go over well. Yeah.
And that's actually what I said recently too, that's how my approach would be. Is
right.
That, you don't just step in and be like, daddy's home, like, obviously, because there's a lot of sensitivity around that.
Yeah. So just doing that. And our counselor last time we met talked about she called it step in parents instead of step parents, as we transition. We're not quite there yet, but eventually, and what that's like. And that's like you're stepping in, but you're not like I don't know, it just
overstepping or whatever.
Yeah. And so we're not to that place where we would, and we probably never will be.
I'm not trying to take the place.
Right. Exactly.
Of each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
and I think that's really good.
And just respecting where our kids are, because they're all in some sort of grief in one way or another. And that like kind of just seeing where they're at with everything and making sure, I don't know, it's tricky. We've talked about this. In one hand, it's like, I want to be sensitive to my kids, but I'm also like, they're going to be grown up in 4 years. And so if, they really didn't want me to date Joel, that would be hard for me, because they're going to be gone in 4 years and I want him in my life. So it's that being sensitive, but yet you've got your life to live as well.
And it's interesting because for me, it's like my kids are young. And so, yes, of course, nobody will ever be mommy.
Right.
But my kids are still seeking a mother.
Yes.
And so it is different. You guys as kids are grown up for the most part. You know what I mean? They're older.
Yes.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting to think about. And so is there something that you guys is there sort of a feeling of like you're kind of getting a chance in a way, of course, outside of your choices, but to like start over? Do you feel like you're able to take experience from past relationships and apply it here? Or does it feel like a total like fresh start kind of thing?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like you learn from your, previous marriage, how to communicate, because think about it, like the first time we were all really young, we got married in our 20s.
Mhm.
I mean, I am still 29, but let's
We
pretend.
know.
Yeah. So your early 20s, you've never been married. You don't know what that's like. And so obviously you learn a lot from being married and how to communicate. And so there is that feeling of like, okay, like I know how to do this, but it's a totally different person. So
Mhm.
some things are a lot different. But so I feel like I take experience, good and bad, and am able to apply it here, to our relationship. And like some things do remind me of like before and some things don't. And it, like I said before, it's hard to explain. It's like a whole new love. Like it's completely different because completely different person and a different
Mm.
timing in my life. I'm, a lot older than I was before. I've been through a lot of life. Like the hard things I've been through are why I am who I am today. We, just for those that don't know, we met in college. So, he never pursued me. I don't know why, but he didn't.
The list was long. of guys that-
Here comes that first elbow. No.
Yes. So the point is, like, we've talked about it before. Like we didn't date then. We were in different places, and it's like who we are now fits. Like
Right.
that it didn't, we had God had different plans for our lives then,
Mm.
and we didn't fit then. We never were together. And then now I have become this person because of what I've been through. He's become this person because of what he's been through. And we've been parents and all of this stuff. And where we are in life now is like a new, because we're not the same person we were 20 or whatever.
Right. God's constantly preparing our hearts for the next thing,
Yeah.
is
So
what I think. And it's, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think I completely agree with you because, I've been through
Because I'm smart.
years and years of counseling, really, and I learned a lot. I've been through about 18 counselors trying
Wow.
to solve things, and so I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about just communication and grown through all that, and hopefully became a better person out of
Sure,
the
yeah.
experience that I'm bringing into my new relationship with Michelle. So of course we got also, just the life experience as well, that
Yeah.
and that can be tricky sometimes, because sometimes you kind of think about how things used to be, and then you bring that into the new relationship, and so every once in a while we have to, you just kind of got to talk about it.
Mm.
For example, I think even today I noticed that Michelle,
what?
let's
What?
see if I could say this right. She was a little bit worried of changing the plans on me,
Mm.
about where
Oh,
we
yeah.
have to go first, because we had a plan on where we're going to go, but then she decided that we needed to swing by here first and then do this, and I could tell she was a little bit worried about that was going to upset me. So I realized that was something that she's bringing from her previous relationship, and so I was able to just kind of, hey, you know what, it's fine, it's okay, it doesn't bother me, we're just going to go with the flow, and so I think it helps a lot with just being sensitive to each other.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that makes sense. I mean, that's how we're supposed to be. That's the way that God has, set it up. And so I find it interesting. And so, Joel, like, okay, Michelle, don't look at Joel when I ask him this.
Okay.
Okay, Joel, was it scary for you to sign up for dating a widow? I saw that, Michelle.
No, it's hard not to look at him. Tell the truth. The whole truth.
The truth is, you're first, you fall for the person first, right?
Mhm.
And so that's, Michelle is extremely attractive, and I love her spirit and who she is. And so that was the easy part. But yeah, it's a little bit when you start realizing how, her previous partner, Luke, is still a very much part of their life.
Mhm.
You know, you still have pictures in their house of Luke, and so there, it is definitely something that it's new. It was new for me because, you know, I don't have any pictures of my previous relationship around, and you know, and it's kind of a difficult topic to talk about, and because we've dealt with so many different problems over a decade of trying to solve my previous relationship. So that so it takes a little bit of getting used to that she still loves her previous partner. In my case, it kind of dwindled because of the problems, and it'll be easy to to feel intimidated when it comes to that.
That's okay. That's a really good perspective.
But I think
just-
as you understand that her love for you is it's just adding.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
taken away from who you are. I think, you know, Michelle does a great job of, you know, when she doesn't compare me.
Right.
You know, every once she say, hey, you know, he used to do this or that, and I don't take it as an offense ever. It's just like, hey, that's cool. That's, you know, a lot of the stuff that Michelle has told me about Luke, I admire, and I think that's really neat that he was, you know, some of his qualities that he had that I don't have, but I don't have to feel intimidated about that. I am who I am, and Michelle has chosen for me to be part of her life. And so I can accept everything that who she is and who in her background, and not feel like, oh, I'm not good enough or anything like that. So I think
that's awesome.
It's a little bit of a challenge there, and I don't know that every guy can really just handle that.
No.
But and I've heard of horror stories where new spouses, you know, tell the widows never to talk about their previous, you know.
Yeah. It's
that
true.
That would be so detrimental to the relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, I think you got to be bigger than that. When
Yeah.
you got to understand.
You got to be
that
secure.
You got to be secure in who you are, and who God made you, and know that was a beautiful story that they have, that they in their memories, in their thoughts, and you can just embrace that instead of asking that for her to shut that down and never talk about that ever again. You're going to lose so much of who that.
I love that. I love all that. That's really good stuff. And then Michelle, so you obviously did a lot of grief counseling.
Yes.
You went through a lot, and you took it very seriously and got far in it and put in a lot of work to get where you're at today. So, you know, I've heard people, you know, ripping on you, and you shouldn't be this happy, and all these things that, you know, I've seen that, you know, I've stood up for you because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is, you have no idea who this girl is and what she's been through to get to this point. So that being said, you've put in so much work to get the healing.
Yes.
So that obviously, I would have to imagine, has been incredibly beneficial into this next chapter also. But do you think it has helped you, like, communicate better with just learning how to handle it yourself?
Yeah, because I understand grief, so I can explain it to him. I understand the roller coaster. I understand what we feel. We can heal. I mean, I've taught him all the things, you know, and so because I understand, because I went through grief counseling, I'm able to give him the tools that I got to know how to deal with it. So I highly advise that people go through some sort of grief counseling. Mine, was during COVID, and it was like 8 months, once a week online. And that completely helped me. And my regular counselor, who I see every other week, I've seen her for like 12 years. It's definitely been beneficial. So I know how to, if I don't know what I'm feeling, what I'm dealing with, how can I tell him how to help me? And so I think that's really important for people listening, to get the tools yourself, so that the person that you date can know how to deal with you. It's also, you know, just difficult. We were talking about today, just the differences. So, like, he has never been through the opposite side, like being divorced and then dating somebody and like figuring out like how to do this to do the best in all areas for his kids and me and for all of it. And so that's kind of a side note, but that's a difficult thing too, is he doesn't know how to do it because he's never done it.
Right, it's all new for both of us.
Yeah, so we're
Right.
going through these two different things that are new for both of us, and so we're just learning it. He's always like, well, we're figuring it out.
Yeah, I like that. And so a lot of these questions I'm asking, I know are super basic to you guys. They've been intentional though, because I'm putting
Yeah.
myself in the shoes of somebody who just lost their spouse.
Yeah,
Maybe not just, but maybe they're just getting to the point of
Ready
being
to date.
interested in
Mhm.
dating again. And I'm trying to think of what questions that I might want to ask for them.
Yeah,
And so I know a lot of these things, and obviously, I already know a lot of
Right.
the answers to these things,
no,
but I'm just trying
doing
to,
a good job.
pick apart for somebody listening what their fears might be, I
Mhm.
guess. And so I'm trying to think about it from that perspective. And, because I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm trying to get these answers for me.
Right. I
Because
know.
I feel like I can talk to you guys anytime, kind of a
Yeah.
thing, it's like for my own answers.
I know.
But so, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I know a huge fear. In fact, we talked about this recently. People, like a lot of widows, are afraid to lose again. And
Mhm.
they don't want to love someone full. It's scary. It's
That was my
scary.
next question, actually.
Oh, sorry. Took it right
No,
from
you're
you.
good. So let me ask you this
Yeah,
really
go
intriguing
ahead.
question. No, I was going to say that though, like, so, I would imagine that it wouldn't, I'm sure, Joel, you have your own set of fears that come along with, having lost your first wife in many ways. But Michelle, having lost Luke in death, when you stepped into a new relationship, how real is that fear?
Yeah. Well, I always say since the very first time, it's better to have loved and lost than never loved at all. And I feel that again, like it's better to love again and lose than to
Mhm.
never. But it's scary. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Joel lives in Louisiana. I live in Washington. He has a job there, and I have, there's just so much stuff that we don't
Two
even know yet.
lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know how it's all going to work together, but we have decided since the beginning, like we wanted to try this and see and let God bring it together. And we're getting there day by day. But yeah, there's fears. I mean, we've had a couple like really difficult times where it was like, I, didn't know what was going to happen. And it's that scary. I found I do still have a fear of loss that I didn't realize
Mhm.
until we went through some difficult things and like, what if this doesn't work, and like how that made me feel. And like, I don't like that feeling, but God reminded me when we were going through something difficult that no matter what, like God got me through Luke's death. So if something happened to Joel and we didn't work out or something happened to him physically, like I'd be okay. I still have
Mhm.
God. Like I would
Mhm.
be okay. And I think that's it. You've got to have your security in God, because if it's in anything else, that's why I think so many widows are lost, because their security was their spouse. And that's why they can't
Mhm.
ever recover, because they don't know where their security
That
comes
makes
from.
sense.
And so I think it's the
Yeah.
same thing when you're in a relationship, because I can feel when I'm starting to like rely on Joel too much and all of this stuff. And it's like God reminds me, nope, I am your security, not a person. A person is a
Mm.
bonus, but I am your security. And so I think if you can let go of that and just like, I'm going to do this day by day. Like, even if Joel was gone tomorrow, something happened or whatever, I would still be glad I took this chance. I would still be glad for all the memories we have, because it's better to have
That's
loved and lost.
cool.
That's how
And
I feel about it.
and
But
how
it,
about you, Joel? Do you have your own set of fears? You know what I mean, involving like what you've been through in previous marriage. Do you have fears that, what I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like just do you have fears that come along with being in a relationship again?
Yeah, I think there are fears based on what each person has experienced before, because in our case, with the previous relationships, there has brought fear of repeating this, in my case, repeating an issue
Mhm.
like what I just went through. In her
Mhm.
case, losing me again to death or something like that.
Mhm.
There are fears there, but like Michelle said, man, if you know where your provision, where your, where your source comes from, and both of you are looking to Jesus and not to each other as you're kind of walking this road, there's going to be a lot more peace there, because like Michelle said, who's got your back, and that brings so much peace to me as well.
I love that.
God's got me, God has Michelle and our kids. And so that as we take this very prayerful, slow journey, God still needs to be the center of our lives.
Yeah.
And not let that focus just be on each other. It needs to be in the Lord. And that'll bring the health that our relationship needs, because it can go sideways pretty quick when we start just letting our fears dictate what we're doing.
Yes.
Letting our needs feel like all of our needs need to be met by each other, not the Lord, and start looking around. And even in our case, the long distance stuff, just a while back, I was like, hey, how is this going to work out? I started freaking out a little bit, and instead of like, Lord, I trust in you, you're going to keep on directing our steps here. So
it's awesome. It's I think that is really good advice for anybody, regardless of what they're walking through. I know our audience is usually, mostly the widowed, but I think that's good advice for anybody to not give in to fear.
Yeah.
And something that I really see, and that is just something that I've just want to encourage people with, is that I saw this happen for you, and I say you, Michelle, because obviously I didn't know you, Joel.
Yeah.
But God brought him out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
Facebook.
And it's just such a testimony of trusting him and him not needing your help. And so for those of you, this is the whole point I'm getting at, is that for those of you out there that do want to get married again, you may not be there yet, and that's okay. Or you may not be there at all. But for those of you who do want to be remarried again, wait on the Lord and pray and work on drawing closer to God yourself, and he will meet your needs. I watched it, and it's super cool. So anyways, do you have anything else you want to add?
I actually wanted to talk about just right before I started talking to Joel, I was talking to my best friend Deborah, and just having a hard time, like, where am I going to find my next spouse? Like, where is he going to come from? And she said, stop trying to write your own love story and let God write it.
That's awesome.
It's like, it's not your responsibility. And I was like, oh, that's good. I actually just told this story to a widow who I started coaching with, just talking about love stories and stuff like that. And it's like, you got to let go and let God take the pen. And it's hard when you want to control things. Don't give me the pen, and sometimes and I'm not saying one way or another about like dating apps, all that stuff. That's a personal choice, but I've seen it and I've experienced it. Like, I just got to find somebody, or whatever. And like, okay, I'm gonna look here. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, is he single? Let me see. Blah, 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 all the stuff. Like, where's he gonna come from? And like feeling, because it's different when you're in 29 or 40s, and you're like trying to date again, and like it's difficult. Everybody has baggage, and a lot of stuff I experienced with some of the bad dates we've talked about on these episodes was just like so depressing, and like that's what there is. And so I was just in this place of like, oh, there's nobody, like, what am I gonna do? And then Joel and I reconnected on Facebook and just kind of went from there. And so my encouragement, whatever that looks like for you, whoever's listening, like, there's nothing wrong with doing dating apps and all that. I'm just saying, take away the pressure from yourself that I have to find the person. Let God write your love story, because it's more beautiful than you could imagine. I never would have figured this out in a million years, that someone I knew from college, we'd both have our lives and then reconnect, and someone in Louisiana, like, just none of it was anything that I ever thought. But here we are, building a serious relationship, wanting to build a future together. That's my advice. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
Oh yeah. One thing to add to that is, like, just where I was a lot in the area of, you know, learning to be the right person before you really look for the right person. And, you know, we started chatting, but like, I really wasn't even thinking about a possibility. I was just working on myself, just getting through what I know I had to deal with, and becoming a better person, trusting the Lord to work things out in my life that needed to be changed, trying to be a better dad, you know, just those kind of things. And all of a sudden, here comes Michelle. So, you know, I want to encourage people to just really trust the Lord and truly ask God to make you the right person.
That's
before you're
good.
looking for the right person.
I love that. My pastor actually shared that with me at some point, and he said, and it was really profound to me, and it stuck with me, that he said, stop, you know, like, don't worry about what you're looking for in a woman. Become the man that you're supposed to be, and you will attract that woman.
Yeah.
And you know, and I've gone through phases of being on the dating app, you know, that whole scene, and you know, didn't work out real well for me. I had a man tell me, whatever, I'm just gonna share it with the audience. I had a man tell me that I was the perfect spooning size.
Oh, Mark, that's awesome.
So you know, I wasn't quite there. But you know, so that was about as far as my luck went. But I do have just a lot of hope and joy in my soul, and I'm just not worried about that.
That's good.
You know, and I just have my own reasons, nobody, not right now. Just my own reasons of just things that have happened with God lately that have just kind of shown me that I'm worried about something that I don't need to be worried about, and that when it's the right time, it will be the right time. And that's just, you know, kind of where I'm at with it right now, but just my heart feels full and a lot of joy. And so,
glad.
Yeah, thanks. And it's been really awesome for me to watch this unfold, because I've you know, been by your side, Michelle, for a long time, in the scheme of this widowed journey.
Yeah, almost.
And so, yeah, and so it's been really neat to watch you grow. And you know, I've learned a lot from you. I've grown a lot from being your friend, and to see this part of the chapter like unfolding and seeing the joy in just the way you talk, and like just everything is so much different now than it was a year and whatever 4 months ago, whatever it was when we first met. So like, I'm like, honestly, I praise God for it, because it's selfishly, it gives me hope, you know, like
that's
like
good.
just for
I'm
selfish
glad.
reasons, but just from as being happy for a friend, it's been really cool to see this joy just explode. Like I've seen you go from the pits of you know, not desperation, what's the word, depression, into like just this ultimate like joy and restored heart. And so you're the reason for that, Joel, and that's awesome. So and I hope that, obviously I've just met you for the first time today. I feel like I know more about you than I should for having just met you like an hour ago. But
because I kind of talk about him a lot. So
yeah, there's that. I'm sure the audience feels the same way. But it's been a real joy to meet you, and I'm just grateful that God has aligned this. You know, even if just for, you know, because obviously none of us know the future, but even if it's just for this season, it's still been beautiful to watch and see. And so congratulations to you guys on finding, you know, happiness in your lives. And thanks. And if you guys have anything else you want to add, I'm just trying to, you know, I've sort of became the narrator of this.
I know, this
today.
is fun.
You're
You're interviewing us, so it's been great having you think of everything. I just answer.
Yeah.
No, I think this will be very helpful, and we definitely could do or if people want to send in questions, you know, we could do something again where we are you know, going through questions of what it's like dating, because this seems to be a topic that many people are interested in, which I get. It was something
Mhm.
like I started being interested in, not too far into my journey of being a widow. Like, what would it be like to date someone again? What would this be like? What would this be like? And
Yeah.
so if our journey can help other people, we'd be open to, talking more.
Yeah. And well, you and I, it's different for a lot of people. Some people might not get there as quick as we were, but we
Yeah.
also sat by and watched a lot of suffering
Yes.
for a long time. And so I think that's why, you and I maybe started considering it sooner than most. I mean, it
Yeah.
took me a while, but still it was, some people it's years
Yeah.
before
Mhm.
they even consider dating again. Yeah. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I think just I would give advice to just be open to love. Like,
Mm,
worst that can happen is, I mean, you might get hurt some, but you would have another experience. Like, I don't regret experiences in my life, even if they hurt, because they brought me
mm,
to where I am today, who I am today. And so I would just say, take a chance. God did not give us a spirit of fear,
mhm.
and so to get out and just be open to it, because you might miss something that God has for you. If you're like, I'm so scared of losing, or I feel guilty. You know what? Let go of the guilt. That is not from God. Okay. Your late
Mm.
spouse and God, they did not want you to feel guilty about loving again. And it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced in my life, to have love after loss, when your heart is so broken and then God gives you another relationship. And it's just like the most, I can't even explain it, how much joy it brings and the beauty that it is. And it's such an amazing thing. And then to be able to, I've been very public about my journey I have people on Facebook who've been with me 15 years. They've seen it all. They've watched my whole journey with Luke, and now they're seeing this journey. And so many people tell me what an inspiration it is to them. And so your life might be an inspiration to someone else too. And if you don't want to date again, that's okay too. I don't want people to feel like you have to. But just know, if you are interested in it, I would say go for it. I mean, you're going to have some great stories, if nothing else. I got some
Right.
of those.
I'll
Hot
totally
mom
go to the
guy.
grave with you.
Yeah, that guy
One
with
guy.
the hot mom shirt. Actually,
Yeah.
real quick side note, Joel and I went to dinner there a couple of days ago, or lunch, and I was like,
I should have worn that shirt.
I know, and I was like, hey, this is where I went on the date with hot mom guy. And then I was
Oh
just
my
like
gosh, that's
going
funny.
through like some of those things like that he said to me. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Well, and something I'd like to say too is that obviously when you're ready, but
yeah,
something I've, kind of say I've been thinking about lately is that sometimes we can get hung up on the fear of what other people might think.
oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's something that with time that I feel like, that we should all learn to let go of, because nobody's in our shoes. And, there's obviously a lot of sensitivity that surrounds that.
Definitely.
But so there's that, is just, be aware that probably a lot of the fear, like I'd say step back and ask yourself, like, am I afraid of dating this person or dating in general? Or am I afraid of what other people are going to think? Because it
Exactly.
probably will feel
Point.
pretty similar.
Mhm.
And then also to remind yourself that you didn't choose this life.
Right.
You didn't choose to lose your spouse.
Right.
It's just the position we're all in. And so when you're ready, like, just, I'd say, kind of recite these things to yourself and just know that, like, you didn't choose this and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like Michelle said many times in other episodes, it doesn't mean you love your spouse any less.
Right.
It just means that you want to be loved, or you want to love again.
Right.
So,
That is true. Well, do you want to close us out in prayer?
Sure,
All
absolutely.
right.
Father God, I thank you so much for just being a constant source of comfort in our lives, and being there when we don't even notice a lot of times. And I just thank you for being so constant and so consistent in our lives. And I thank you, Lord, for new relationships. I thank you for this one that we've had the pleasure of learning about today. And I just pray for everybody out there listening, Lord, that you would give them a feeling of joy in their soul like we feel right now. It doesn't, just, I don't know, it doesn't mean that we're happy about what happened, but that you've just restored the joy in our hearts. And I pray that you would give that gift to everybody who asks for it. And Lord, just we thank you. We thank you for your son, Jesus, because it's all about you and your kingdom. And we pray that you would help us be better servants and that you would use us as vessels to guide people to your kingdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate you. If you want to give us a little bing, 5 stars. Did you know I forgot that last week? I realized later when I was listening.
What?
Yeah, I didn't say it. So anyways, you can give us a little bing, 5 stars.
You've done it 42 times in a row.
I know, I
Now
forgot,
you
but
messed up. Just
Apple
kidding.
Podcasts, bing. Anywhere you listen. Anyways, all the stuff. You can email us, widowedtoosoon@gmail.com. You can join our Widowed Too Soon page. All the things. It's all in the show notes. You guys know the whole thing. So anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. Joel, thank you for being our special guest.
Thank you, Joel.
Very,
Nice
very
to be halved.
we have to. Right. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
All right. Bye. God bless.